Hello. I think we're almost ready to go here. I'm all dressed up this morning. I hope you like the tie. Anyway, welcome to today's installment of the Chicken Qabalah of Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford. We are on the chapter of the Tree of Life, chapter 7. And it'll be probably in a couple of parts. So we're going to read the first part of it. Chapter 7 is on the Tree of Life. And this part, of course, like most of the chapters, is introduced by me. And it begins with an epigram from Rabbi Lamed ben Clifford that says, "The light of Kether is one. It is pure consciousness. Its radiance never diminishes. The 9 Sephiroth beneath it simply separate and filter the light. This trickled-down consciousness, not some mythological fruit-eating incident, is the real fall of man." And that's the quote by Rabbi. And now this is my introduction. To the chicken Kabbalists and other modern students who presume a more exalted opinion of themselves, the schematic image known as the Tree of Life is the most recognizable symbol of the Kabbalah. Esteemed as it is, this diagram of the anatomy of God is by no means the most ancient. As a matter of fact, it was first published in 1652, or the one that we're using, in Kirchner's Oedipus Egypticus. You can see why I don't say that a lot. It's by no means the most ancient Kabbalistic device, but its components, the 10 primal emanations of creation, or Sephiroth, and Sephiroth is the plural, Sephirah is the singular. 10 primal emanations of creation, or Sephiroth, and 22 paths that connect them. They display with remarkable simplicity the most important and venerable principles of Kabbalistic doctrine. Although the Tree of Life, as such, is not mentioned in the Sefer Yetzirah, it is the visual elaboration of the fundamental statement of that great text that informs us that deity created the universe in 32 mysterious paths of wisdom, 10 Sephiroth out of nothing, and 22 letters, unquote. Now, how did the author or authors of the Sefer Yetzirah reach the conclusion that the 10 Sephiroth out of nothing and 22 letters were the vehicle of divine creation? Most certainly it was an oral tradition predating the Sefer Yetzirah, but it had to have originated somewhere. Predictably, Rabbi Ben Clifford had the answer. And this chapter is dedicated to his thoughts on that matter. What follows are transcriptions and notes from 2 long-suppressed tape recordings made by the rabbi in 1978 and 79. During the period of his public ministry, these early tapes and the so-called documents that accompany them posed somewhat of an embarrassment to his students, who believed with good reason that if they were made public, Ben Clifford's reputation would be irreparably damaged. The source of this concern, stem not from the content of the material, which we shall soon see is rich in Kabbalistic wisdom, but from the incredulous format of the presentation. It appears the rabbi would actually have us believe that he possessed original essays written over 2,500 years ago by students of the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. I'm sure I don't have to tell the reader that Ben Clifford is again having us on in this matter. But please don't let this literary device tempt you to dismiss the value of these little compositions. They are some of the most ingenious examples of Kabbalistic logic I have ever seen displayed. I find it quite easy to believe that sometime in the distant past, the fundamental elements of the Qabalah were developed in a manner not too dissimilar to what is outlined by these imaginary students. And now, here's the rabbi's fraudulent essays. And remember, this was taken from a tape recording of these lectures. Sacred Numbers and the Creation of the Tree of Life. Edited from the transcriptions and notes of the tape-recorded presentations of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. Good morning, my friends. Please help yourself to coffee and donuts. Today's presentation is a very special one. I'm even tape recording it. So I want you all to stay awake. I'm very excited about today's lecture, and I think you should be too. Not only are we going to learn about sacred numbers and the creation of the tree of life, we are first going to discover some astounding things concerning the history of this beloved institution. So let's take our seats and quiet down. There's an unintelligible question from a student, and the rabbi answers, "Yes, but please keep your socks on." I am often asked, "Rabbi, you speak often of the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth, yet we see no buildings, find no trace of such an organization in the directories of schools or even the telephone directory. Is not Zippy a child of your own imagination?" Well, dear friends, mock and scoff as you will, you need look no further than the sacred scripture themselves. Behold, it is written in the 11th chapter of Ezra. A facsimile of the page is reproduced in this book. And as a matter of fact, I'll show it to you. There's the 11th chapter of Ezra. And you see it has all of the little biblical marginal notes and everything else. Somebody went to great lengths to perpetrate this hoax. To find this document. I'll read it to you if you'd like, and that's where we'll stop for today. Ezra 11, chapter 11. And it came to pass, in the second year following the completion of the second temple, that Ezra, priest of Israel, decreed that a school should be builded for the purpose of discovering all there was to know about God, human beings, the universe, and life in general. Verse 2. This proclamation caused great consternation among the children of Israel and government leaders. Chapter 3. Quote, "What will it profit us to gain this knowledge? How shall we pay for such an undertaking? Does Ezra think that we're rich like Hittites? Verse 4. Indeed, the enterprise seemed doomed, for although the citizens were sincere and pious and revered the wisdom of Ezra, none among them could justify in their hearts the expenditure of precious resources for such an obscure and intangible endeavor. Verse 5. But Ezra was wise as a serpent. He realized that the essence of God, if God be truly God, must be reflected in every unit of creation. 6. It followed that if one meditated long enough and hard enough about anything, sooner or later the deity would reveal itself therein. 7. He took counsel with his publisher, Nut and Geb of West Jericho, who during the dark years of the Babylonian captivity published his controversial Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. And he also supped with the chief financial officer of the Memphis Papyrus Company. 8. He vowed to these great men of commerce that if they subsidized this holy institution, he would guarantee that their edition of the Pentateuch would forever be used as the primary text at the school. 9. Furthermore, he took the shoe from off his foot and rent his sock and spat upon the palms of his hand and swore a solemn oath that he would enter into an exclusive covenant with Nut and Geb to supply Pentateuchs in deluxe editions to the school in perpetuity. That's chapter 11 of the book of Ezra. Thus, more than 2,500 years ago was born the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth, or ZIPPY. And you, my dear students, are the inheritors of that proud tradition. Let's imagine that we're the first students of that great Kabbalistic school. We're not sure how we got here. Perhaps we earned a scholarship. Perhaps our fathers are wealthy or members of the Jerusalem Chamber of Commerce, or they're government or temple officials. Regardless of how we came here, our assignment is simple. We are to think about things all day, all night. To focus our considerations and to give us a scaffolding upon which to perform our mental gymnastics, our teachers have provided us with a single text, the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. We are told that these writings are holy, and if we apply ourselves diligently, every mystery of heaven and earth will reveal itself to us in these pages. But, sir, a learned student might have injected, I've read the Pentateuch scores of times, and the mysteries of heaven and earth have not revealed themselves to me. Then, my son, the teacher might have answered, you must seek them one sentence, one word, one letter at a time. If that doesn't work, you are to read the texts backwards. Count the words, count the characters, transpose, transfer, translate, transliterate, shuffle, and braid the letters, skin, dissect, magnify, seconomize. That's what the word was. Automatize, homogenize them until your brain explodes. Only then can your mind purge itself of the false reality of contradiction. Then and only then will the pure wisdom of God flood into your vacuous skull and fill the void. But, sir, if God made everything and his essence pervades everything, then why would not examination and meditation upon any text, indeed anything whatsoever, reward us with the same spiritual enlightenment? Yes, my son, you're absolutely correct. But the fact remains, we have entered into an exclusive covenant with the publishing house of Nutt and Gebb to supply Pentateuchs in deluxe editions to the school in perpetuity. And that's where we'll stop today. Well, actually, let me just continue one more paragraph. Of course, there is no way of telling whether or not such a conversation ever took place between students and teacher. However, there's no ambiguity about the documents which I hold in my hand. They are over 2,500 years old and were obtained at great expense from a reputable antiquities dealer in New Orleans. They are nothing less than the authentic remnants of actual classroom material from the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. As luck would have it, these papers all deal with the evolution of the concept of the tree of life. I can think of no better way of showing you the art of Kabbalistic thinking in action than to reproduce this rare and historic material in its entirety. And that's where we'll pick up tomorrow with the rare official classroom papers of the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. I think you'll enjoy it. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.